Hello and welcome to Hot Roster yesterday, Cam, because we are breaking down yesterday's action, week 9 of the NFL season. As I mentioned, Cam Stewart, joined by Garion, Thorne. Cam, was an interesting week, I'll say that.
It was very interesting.
It's been some sloppy football this year.
I got to be honest
you
with
know?
you. Like, I love the NFL. You
Yeah.
love the NFL. We're sports guys, Gary, and we watch it all. But I can understand why ratings are down. I'm watching these games going, lots of bad mistakes, sloppy football. And I got to be honest with you, the referees are getting involved quite a bit. It's been an ongoing theme, and it's really bothersome.
There's been some really weird games. Now, not to say there wasn't good games yesterday, especially the 4 o'clock slate was a really good sect of football. I mean, entertaining games at the very least. You had Green Bay, Indy, obviously that San Diego, Tennessee game, which was very, very interesting. And actually, one subject of our first topic in the Big Four was part of that contest, that being Marcus Mariota. We're going to talk about him and Dak Prescott, who are both top 5 quarterbacks this week in standard formats. Mariota specifically QB1 after 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown on top of that. This guy, Cam, 5 straight games of 16-plus fantasy points. He scored 28 fantasy points or more in 3 of those games. We're talking huge numbers here for Mariota. But if you had to have one of these guys for the rest of the season, do you think you'd side with Dak, or would you take Marcus Mariota?
I'd actually, Gary, go with Marcus Mariota due to volume. Like, it's one of those things, actually, you know what I mean? Like 248 attempts to 221. So we know he's throwing the ball. Tennessee seems to be in those situations. You talked about this before, and it was very smart. Dallas, slow, methodical drives. Yet Dak Prescott is getting his. But I got to believe Tennessee's going to be in more wild games, and I like his running ability a lot more. They don't have, they have a good running back, but nobody as good as Ezekiel Elliott right now. So I'm thinking the Dallas Cowboys and the way they can milk clock is actually going to hurt fans. Like, they could be even higher in the fantasy world, yet they're still doing great things. But I love Mariota because he's a gunslinger.
Well, you look at the one game that Dak has had in the recent past where he actually had to put up a huge number of attempts. It was because they were trailing in that Sunday night game against Philadelphia. Not to say that Dallas is one of the best teams in the NFL. They're a very good team, and I think that they are deserving right now of their 7-1 placard. But, they're going to start losing some games.
Yep. That's
going to happen. But right now, you look at these two teams, if you ask me which team is more likely to be down in any given game, at any given point, it's probably Tennessee. Tennessee's a worse team than Dallas, and it played out yesterday. I know it was a great spot for Dallas against Cleveland, but as you mentioned, they just suck the life out of the ball. They lead the league in time of possession, and it's pretty much predicated on the fact they're willing to run the ball. They have the lowest pass ratio in the entire league. They're the only team under 50%. Now, Tennessee has the 4th lowest pass ratio. They're only up at 53%. But you look, last game, they were trailing against San Diego, a script that could happen a lot for the Titans. They had to throw the ball 70% of the time in that game. Dallas threw the ball 40% of the time because they were winning.
Exactly.
As they do.
And Prescott, 27, 24 attempts. That's basically what's going to happen. But Mariota, 43, 37. You see these type of situation. He's a volume guy. I also like his legs. But, hey, that's the difference between fantasy and reality. He made 2 huge mistakes that cost Tennessee the game. But when it comes to the fantasy world, Garion, we just want points, and he's getting it done.
I'd have to roll with Mariota, too. He's been a QB1, 2 of the last 5 weeks. And like you're saying, just the opportunity is going to be more there with a guy like Marcus Mariota. We talk about opportunity. 2 guys who are big beneficiaries. Huge chunks of the team opportunity pie, Cam, are Melvin Gordon and Zeke Elliott. One of the reasons you can't be so confident in Dak because you know Zeke is going to get his touches. Only 18 carries in that game against Cleveland, although, as we mentioned, he basically stopped carrying the ball at the end of the 3rd quarter. They put Alfred Morrison to kind of save Zeke, as they should, obviously.
And they're going to do that a lot.
And they could do that a lot, exactly. But Melvin Gordon, 32 carries, 196 yards, and a touchdown, was also heavily involved in the passing game. Zeke got his 2 touchdowns in his return to the state of Ohio. But if you had to pick one of these guys, as crazy as this question would have seemed 2 weeks ago, when Melvin Gordon was averaging 3 yards a carry, right now, for the rest of the season, if you could have Melvin Gordon or Zeke, who would you take?
I think Melvin Gordon. He's getting, you talk about it, Gary, 9 touchdowns rushing. He's got two touchdowns receiving. Look at the receiving yards, 284 to 150.
Yeah.
He's getting catches out of the backfield. And you talk about the Chargers offense. Hunter Henry, one of those guys in the red zone, he's been banged up, not playing. Antonio Gates is a little long at the tooth. When Phillip Rivers goes, what are my options? He's going, Melvin Gordon is my best option. Yeah. Whereas Dallas, some weeks it could be Dez. Some weeks it's going to be Cole Beasley. They have so many other guys in their system that we talk about. I love, and you said it earlier, earlier too, that Bolts, they're born to score. These guys just love putting up numbers. I love Gordon down the stretch, and you talked about it. Dallas in the record right now, I could see Zeke taking a lot of times if they're up in games, riding the pine, because they got to save this guy for important times.
Well, there was a really clear-cut example of what you're talking about in that game for San Diego, where a couple pass interference calls put them at the 1-yard line.
Yep.
They give it to Gordon on first down, can't crack the end zone. Give it to him on second down, can't crack in the end zone. Give it to him on third down again, and he finally gets in. Like, he's going to have the opportunities. And this was a game, really strange game from a game script perspective. The Chargers scored 2 defensive touchdowns. I mean, first off, how often does that happen anyway?
Never.
Barely ever. 2 defensive touchdowns. They still, had 7 drives inside the opponent red zone. 4.8 drives per game in their opponent's red zone. That is so far and away first in the league. Melvin Gordon is just going to have ample opportunity to score touchdowns
32
here.
rushes, Gary. He's got 18 for Elliott. It's one of those things. It's just, they just feed the monster.
And I love Zeke, and I think Zeke is probably the better actual running back. But as you said, fantasy and reality are really different. And right now, points per opportunity in a PPR, Zeke is actually slightly ahead of Gordon. He's averaging 0.50 points per opportunity, Gordon at 0.49. So really close. But it's that word. It's the opportunity. It's like, he's going to get so many more, not just in the running game. Like right now, Melvin Gordon leads the NFL in carries by a wide margin. I believe it's 15 carries over Zeke Elliott right now, up at 192. He has double the targets in the passing game. Like, he's just going to be more involved. I mean, no one else is there. No one is there for San Diego.
That's true.
So I think I'm with you. I think I got to take Melvin Gordon, which 2 weeks ago, again, would have been a little crazy. Let's talk about, one of the more annoying and frustrating situations yesterday.
You and Mayo and the guy. It's Mark Ingram.
No, I was about Ingram.
You're about Ingram.
I think that that in that spot in particular is a weird spot because you look at Hightower, you look at Ingram.
And don't you love guys? It's one of those things like in other sports we talk about in basketball. I love when guys get beat down one game and almost embarrassed, and then you're thinking, "Wow, my next game is against one of the worst run defenses in San Francisco.
Maybe the worst.
This is the team I am going to shred," and Ingram did.
And that's my one concern here. And I don't want to be like Pat and just throw dirt on Ingram for no good reason. But I will say, coming into that game, at no point this season had he rushed for over 80 yards in a contest. It's clear that even if you look at the play count in that game, 24-17 for Tim Hightower over Ingram, like the concern that people had about Ingram coming into this contest, even though, as you mentioned, fantastic matchup against San Francisco. San Francisco allowing over 160 rush yards per game to opposing running backs.
Stinks.
Since week 1, when they shut down Todd Gurley, which might now say more about Todd Gurley than it says about their defense, have allowed a 100-yard rusher every single week. Like, these guys are a sieve.
Yeah, they are.
So great matchup. And I don't want to take it away. Ingram took advantage of that. But even like early in that game, like it seemed like, and kudos to him for breaking off that 75-yard run.
Yeah, he looked like a man possessed.
But early on in that contest, like Ingram started, but Hightower had like 8 carries before Ingram got his second carry. Like it seemed like this could be a situation where it was going to be Hightower running away with it. We heard it was going to be the hot hand, and Hightower really didn't do a whole lot, but Hightower's touchdown.
He had a good game too, though.
He did, and he scored his touchdown on a rush inside the 5. And if you look at the breakdown right now of how New Orleans just divvies up their carries inside the 5, it's Hightower, it's John Kuhn, and then it's Mark Ingram. Like Ingram scored from 75 yards away, and he scored on a catch inside the red zone.
It's kind of like the Chargers with Hunter Henry down the field, and then Phillip will look at Gates.
But unlike San Diego, where it's like, okay, once we're inside the 5, Melvin's getting the ball, Ingram's not going to be that guy in a consistent play. So I think they took advantage of their opportunity. They took advantage of a great matchup. Fantastic.
Do you think Ingram won the number 1 job back? The minute he screws up again, it's going to be Hightower again because he's still getting more touches.
And the thing, too, is like we heard about, he was benched because he fumbled the ball. He's got fumble problems. It was his second fumble on the year. That's not even a big number. It's clear that I think Sean Payton's looking for a reason to bench this guy.
Well, I'll tell you something, too. Like Ingram before, we used to laugh because he was a guy that got those cheesy touchdowns and rushed for like 2.8 a carry.
Exactly.
But now he's actually got better numbers than Hightower, 4.8. I know a lot of those yards are big, and Hightower 4.1. Yeah. Ingram's got 5 touches, Hightower 5 touchdowns to 1. So let's give Ingram, like, you know what I mean? We put him in the doghouse a lot, but he's one of those guys that, it's not that bad.
And Hightower's not a guy who's like a daunting presence to steal his job, but I just think it's a little more complicated.
It's split.
It's still a split. Before we get out of here, Cam, talking about 2 guys on the same team, but this time complete opposite directions.
Oh yeah.
Have yet to put up a game where they both produced fantasy wise. Talking the Detroit Lions and Golden Tate and Marvin Jones Jr. It has been a nightmare for Jones Jr. owners basically since week 3.
I have him in one of my leagues. He's on the bench.
I have yet to see a guy, maybe aside from, he's the M. Night Shyamalan of football, Cam, because he took one good week, like Shyamalan took one good movie and made a career out of it.
Yeah.
If you take
Meanwhile,
that
he
Green
sucks.
Bay game, it's been terrible for Marvin Jones, and the reason is Matthew Stafford just doesn't want to throw deep anymore.
Yeah, other than these games, Gary, and take a look at this. 37 yards, 10, 33, and 5. Yeah. That's pathetic. That's unusable. As for Golden Tate, 165 and a touchdown, 93, 42, 79. This guy's putting up the numbers right now. Yeah. So you got to go to Golden Tate. He started off a little bit slow, but he's the guy in the Leo's backfield. And I got to admit, both guys should be concerned with the emergence of Ebron.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. It's just about Ebron, Tate, Riddick, they all have one thing in common. They run the shorter routes. And right now, since week 4, Matt Stafford, 6.5 ADOT, league low. Jones, a guy who really reaps the benefits of the yards per reception, that doesn't fit his archetype right now. So, Cam, we're actually going to talk about a couple of cards, not featuring either of those men we talked about, but a card that featured Gary Barnage.
Yes.
We're going to have to talk
My
about
lock
that
of
a
the
little
week.
bit. Lock of the week.
Womp, womp.
Maybe never take Browns. Maybe that's a lesson we learned here. Cam and I are going to break down a hot roster today card from Sunday when we come back on the show.